So let me say this too, since it's a very common problem, is the myocarditis. All right, I wanted to point out the fact that when I was practicing cardiology long before the pandemic, I saw one case of myocarditis, viral myocarditis, in my practice. One. Big enlarged heart, young lady. By the grace of God and her immune system, after 6 months, her heart came back down to normal size and she was fine. It would have been just as likely for her to go in the opposite direction, go into pulmonary edema and die of congestive heart failure. But fortunately, in her case, nothing due to anything brilliant I did, but you're just sort of like truth be known. And if the physician's going to be honest, you're just a spectator. Now, post-pandemic, we have an entirely different animal. We call it myocarditis, but it's not the same entity at all. Pre-pandemic myocarditis is a diffuse inflammation of the muscle. Pandemic myocarditis, it is focal, it is patchy. Some areas of the heart are affected. They have some microscope studies that even show single myocytes can be affected and the adjacent myocyte not. So nothing can get much patchier than that. Also, and this is where we get the, again, nasty part of the syndrome, a number of studies have found that it appears that the pathogen, or the spike protein in this case, likes the conduction system cells in the heart the most, which means two things, which means a very tiny amount of the heart, mass-wise, is involved, and your troponin levels can stay normal because there's not enough mass being destroyed on a regular basis to release the detectable amount. Yet, and I think this is the explanation why we see all the young athletes dropping dead, okay, is you get a stress event, adrenaline, or the pilots get a stress event, adrenaline, and inflamed conduction cells can quickly generate an arrhythmia, maybe an inconsequential arrhythmia, maybe a life-threatening arrhythmia, but an arrhythmia nevertheless. And we also know, and I am currently the consultant to the Freedom Flyers group of pilots that are trying to get a voice in their health future with the airlines. And it turns out in 2022, the guidelines that the FAA had was a pilot could have a PR interval, prolongation from atrial to ventricle, of 0.2 or less and be declared fine, which is the standard normal limit. So there's nothing wrong with that. Well, guess what? In the last year, they've changed that to 0.3. They've just changed it to 0.3. There's only one reason why you do that, which is there's another new pandemic of prolonged PR intervals, and they don't want to be bothered with dealing with it, testing for it, doing stress tests, doing Holter monitors, and all of this to make sure the pilots are healthy. But of course, the same thing's happening in the general population. Mm-hmm. And so this is why we're seeing, in my opinion, I can't prove this, why so many young people are dropping dead. I mean, you keep track of this, of the European soccer players. My God. The last count on this one website, they track it, it's up to 450 to 500 either collapsed on the field or collapsed and die on